flap, pustule, jowls, nugget, gurgle, smear, bulbous, pork.
If you hear certain words on the job site,
baloney,
work can be uncomfortable.
tender.
So at least get work gear that's comfortable. Timberland Pro work shirts, pants, and boots. Head to toe, Timberland Pro. Not uncomfortable.
Moist.
You like that?
Kirk Cousins, he's getting paid.
Case Keenum to the Broncos.
Sammy Watkins, Andrew Norwell,
Allen Robinson,
Sam Bradford,
Drew Brees,
Nelson Graham.
Free agency is in full swing.
They put dollars ahead of the children in the state of Michigan. They've put dollars ahead of sexual assault victims. That's despicable.
Lou III won't be able to watch his fellow Bulldogs. The NCAA does not allow live mascots in the early rounds of the tournament.
The NCAA monsters, man.
I want to play as long as I feel healthy, as long as somebody wants me.
I'm just here so I don't get fined. I always wanted to do that.
Looks like Marshawn Lynch, reborn in the NCAA tournament, or maybe just his brother from another mother. Who knows? Welcome to the Friday Four. I am Ryan Smith, here in for Bob Lee, outside the lines. Now, all these folks here guaranteed to bring the heat, just like Kirk Cousins' contract. And we've got maybe the best and worst plays of the year, by the way, all just in the last week. So let's start with our guest, Clinton Gates. Here, he's going to find a way to get you to love baseball today.
Always.
You will see what I mean. He's already convinced Kate Fagan, but she's got haters on her mind, including her own dad.
Oh, man.
You got to tell us about that.
Woo.
It's a tease. And Jeremy Schaap, who can't wait to pull out his favorite Beano Cook reference for all you fans born before 1970.
Does that include you? We still don't know.
No, of course not. He knows that'll tell my age. Come on, man. But first, we turn our attention to the big story. NFL's free agency period was so frenetic, as many fans hoped. 6 free agents signing on the first day for at least $30 million guaranteed, the most ever under the new CBA. And that fact wasn't even the biggest headline because of you-know-who. Kirk Cousins signing a 3-year, $84 million guaranteed deal, which for him isn't even about the short term.
As you know, Rick said yesterday, this is a lifetime deal. That's the goal. Yes, it's a 3-year deal, but the expectation is from both sides that, we'd raise our kids here and that, if everything goes as planned, that I'd be here a long, long time.
Okay, so he wants to be there a long time. We all know that. He's saying all the right things. I am wondering if NFL owners and executives are shaking in their boots. So let me ask you guys, is this guaranteed deal good for football? Not for owners, players. Just tell me if you think it's good for football.
I think it's good for football in that it's one of those things that fans believe that they want because they believe it adds some measure of fairness. But I don't know that in practice and in reality, this is necessarily going to be a good thing for the players. It's only going to shorten contracts. And it might shorten contracts to the point where being a football player at all, if you're not a quarterback, means you have zero job security for more than a year. If you're going to have to guarantee contracts going forward, sure, I'll sign you up for this year and we'll just renegotiate every single year that you matter, as opposed to being able to finally sort of project a long-term view and get a little bit more money.
Yeah, I think we're over, in the beginning of this contract landing, we were overstating the impact it would have on future NFL free agents, and myself included. At first, I was like, oh, this is akin to the Kevin Garnett deal back in the day with the Minnesota Timberwolves. I'm like, this will change the game for NFL free agents. But then I realized, like, you look at all of the variables that were at play with Kirk Cousins and what he had to do to land this contract, meaning like play under the franchise tag for 2 years and then be at a moment where the Minnesota Vikings felt as if they were going to offer that kind of money. Then I look and I'm like, okay, so it was like Kevin Garnett paved a road that everyone else after could follow, whereas Kirk Cousins more like nimbly executed an obstacle course that remains the same for pretty much every NFL free agent.
Doug Baldwin tweeted this. Apparently players very excited about this. You can understand why. Let's take a look at his tweet. I mean, look at that. He's a hero for all young players that will follow after him. Now we need more players to bet on themselves until fully guaranteed contracts are the norm. I mean, this is part, it's not guaranteed in the NBA, but they're there. Could this start a trend?
Well, it certainly could start a trend. The question is whether this is fair. Does it ultimately benefit the players? Look, we've been having this argument in football for a long time. You get those announcements. Somebody signed a $140 million contract and they end up getting like $4 million guaranteed in then one season. But when I have these discussions with people who played or in the Players Association, such as our former colleague Robert Smith, who was one of the best players in the league, and he was an active guy in the Players Association, he would say the system, the way it is currently constructed, is the way it should be, because when you have a salary cap anyway, it means that the money is being distributed to the guys who are playing. Right. Now, all of us as just human beings like the idea of job security and financial security and all those things that people want in their lives. But in football, it's a different game. The nature of the game is different. Who knows if this is going to be more fair or less fair? Only time will tell.
Well, couldn't you make the argument, though, that these guys are putting their bodies on the line? Let's give them these guaranteed deals. The NBA's got them. I mean, I know all about the counter arguments, but then not only that, there's also a money management aspect to this. You're giving that guaranteed money up front. A lot of guys blow through that money. Right. Then they got another couple of years on their deals. They can be cut at any time. Could that sea change help guys who not only with money management, but actually have some longevity and some financial protection?
Sure. I'm not sure that's the least concern, though. I think there is something to be said, though, for the fact that the reason why you're getting paid so much is because you might not play again. That's another thing that's at play here. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to be paying guys to not play football. And that's the point that I think Jeremy was making, that Smith was making. You're making top dollar because you could go at any moment. That's how it works. Yeah, and that's unfair, but that's what it is.
Right. And the only people this might be a sea change for, if it is at all, is quarterbacks.
Yeah.
As Bill Polian said on this show a couple days ago, your injury rate in football is basically 100%. And the only position that is somewhat immune to that is quarterback. So teams aren't going to say, like, I'm going to fully guarantee a linebacker for 3 years. That's not
next great defensive end. You never know. You never know. Next great cornerback comes out. They want that.
You're sure you'll guarantee it for half the money. You know what I'm saying? In half the time.
Well, we'll have to see. Okay, can I give you another big story, by the way? Just sort of a 1A.
You need to.
Okay. Tiger Woods, don't cringe. Let me just say this, okay? Last week, so right now he's in the second round, Arnold Palmer Invitational. Doing well so far. Tune up to the Masters. Last August, odds 100-1 to win. After his runner-up finish at Valspar last week, that went down to 10-1. Now 8-1. He stands the best odds to win the Masters according to a Vegas bookmaker. Tell me this. Is his comeback, this comeback as we call it, good for golf fans?
I've said this before. I liked golf a lot before Tiger. I liked golf more with Tiger.
How old
when Tiger Woods went away, I did not believe that I was going to stop liking golf, and I did.
Do you watch
now
it
that
more
Tiger
now that
has
he's had a
come back,
resurgence?
I need more than Tiger to make me a golf fan.
Do you watch it more now that he's had a resurgence?
No,
Are you
I
more
am
interested?
over the Tiger Woods portion of my life. And listen, I know how great he is. He's not going to do this again. Okay. He's only going to be as good as he can possibly be, which at this age of his life is never going to be what we saw in the 90s, and that's fine. I have no problem with that. I just need more from a personality standpoint, from a golfer standpoint, to get me back to the PGA Tour on the whole.
That makes sense, but clearly most people just need Tiger.
Right, fair enough.
And they're just interested in Tiger, and, you know, he has always been the guy who has lifted all boats.
Absolutely.
You know, I mean, his impact on the sport is undeniable. On ratings, there's never been a phenomenon like Tiger Woods in any other sport. One person who changes our perception, who moves the dial in a way like Tiger Woods. How long this lasts, how his body holds up, we just don't know. We have no idea. If it's a 2-week thing where it's like, wow, it looks like he's back, and then he goes away forever, he's got a lot of physical issues. We know that. But Tiger Woods being in the hunt again at this age, I mean, this is bigger than Hale Irwin. This is like, you know, Jack in his 40s. He's been gone for a decade. Well, he was the number one player in the world as recently as 6 or 7 years ago. But he hasn't won a major in a decade. This is a huge story.
Yeah. If I'm intellectually honest, I do care more about golf now that Tiger is back. But here's the metaphor I will make, is that I'm with Clinton in that I don't think it makes me care more about golf going forward. Like, I'm not more invested in the PGA Tour. Right. I'm not more committed to watching golf. I'm simply paying attention to Tiger. It's the same way I feel about UFC women. Ronda Rousey didn't make me all of a sudden a fan of UFC bouts. I tuned in just for Ronda Rousey. And that's fine, and that works for the PGA Tour. If he's not around for that much longer, I don't have any of these other storylines I care about.
Nobody's filled the void.
It's an underdog story. People like an underdog story. We'll see how long that story continues. Yeah. By the way, speaking of a story, as we speak, an Olympics is going on, but from the media coverage, you'd never know it. And who banned this little guy?
Pandering.
That ain't right.
Ridiculous. Underreported villains coming up next.
So cute.
Get up for the love of sports, starting April 2nd and every weekday, ESPN 7 a.m. Get up, get sports, get going.
All right, let's talk underreported stories of the week. If you guys don't mind, I'm going to lead off because it was a story that you actually covered earlier this week. Right here on Outside the Lines. The House recently passed legislation, this is on Monday, requiring governing bodies of amateur sports to, as mandatory reporters, basically report any illegal sexual assault type conduct or sexual abuse type conduct to authorities. If not, punishable by up to a year. Not only that, they extended the statute of limitations. So important in the wake of the Nassar case, because in that case, we had so many people failing to report, so many people not coming forward, and now a lot of people who have made claims are limited by the statute of limitations. This was critical. And by the way, what's interesting about this story is Michigan State President John Engler came out about this. He was against it. He said that in many ways it's hampering our ability to reach settlements with many of the accusers of Dr. Larry Nassar. And Rachel Denhollander came on this show and talked about, while Engler talks about how this is disrupting the process, it's really much more about money. Take a listen to what she said.
They put dollars ahead of the children in the state of Michigan. They put dollars ahead of sexual assault victims. And their concern with passing legislation that gives sexual assault victims access to the justice system is dollars. That's despicable.
Couldn't agree more with that, because the bottom line is protect the kids. We said it over and over again on this show. The children come first, protecting them, giving them the ability to have more time to make claims. That's going to be huge in this case. All right, so Jeremy, an Olympics is going on. You wouldn't know it from the media coverage.
Well, no, it's interesting. After every winter games, after every summer games, they don't. The media spreads out, leaves the site, but a few people remain behind to cover the Paralympics. And the Paralympics have become an important event, a global event. They get bigger and bigger. Right now, the Paralympics are taking place, the Winter Paralympics in Pyeongchang, and it is undercovered. Ben Spiegel, who's covering them for the New York Times, it's nice that the Times has someone there, wrote a piece about it the other day, actually, about how he feels very lonely being one of the only reporters covering the Paralympics. And look, I'm not saying, people have an obligation to watch the Paralympics, but if they give it a chance, they'll see great competition, they'll see great stories. And that stuff is being covered only minimally. NBC, to its credit, is showing a lot of the Paralympics, but the general media, doesn't cover it, obviously, the same way.
And like you say, a lot of great performances out there. USA hockey in the finals, gold medal game versus Canada. That's one we all want to watch. I hope we can get to see it. Okay. Kate, baseball. You're back into it.
Bringing it. So my underreported is the fact that minor league baseball is starting runners at second base in extra innings, obviously to speed up the pace of play. I had this gentleman on the show yesterday, this Clinton Yates I'm pointing to for anyone who
you were outraged, right? Were you outraged?
Not quite.
And so this was the point that Clinton made that I think is really interesting about this and going underdiscussed, is conflating pace of play with the entertainment value of it, and thinking that just because you're making something faster doesn't mean that it's necessarily more entertaining, or that even if the games were the same length, if you made the games themselves more entertaining, that your fan base would automatically increase anyway. Because I think we're all leaning on the attention span of the next generation argument, rather than really digging in and being like, how can we make our game or whatever the product is, the content actually more interesting and more viable? And I think, as Clinton pointed out, now I'm piggybacking off of it, like that conversation is very fascinating.
All right. Speaking of baseball, the O's.
One way to do that is to get kids to like baseball earlier. And the Baltimore Orioles are doing a thing. It's called Kids Cheer Free, where basically one paid adult can bring two kids to a game sitting in the upper deck at Oriole Park at Camden Yards, which the idea is you get them early, you got them hooked for life. And this is brilliant. Every single team in the big should be doing this as far as I'm concerned. And look, they say that it's only going to go through April. For the moment, as it's advertised, they're probably going to do it all season. The stats bore out to something like half of kids who are fans of baseball become so by the age of 7, 3/4 by the age of 14. It happened to me at the age of 10. But it gets back to the point we were talking about earlier. If you like actual baseball, you don't have to worry about this gimmickry of putting people on second base in extra innings or putting clocks on pitchers. Getting kids involved in the game for what it is as a culture, as a sport, and as an outing and experience, never mind the bonding you can do with your parents, is a tremendous idea. I cannot stand the elder Angelos, but this one has got a good idea.
You know what? I fell in love with the game sitting in the cheap seats back in the day.
Hey,
and you know what? That's what's going to bring the fans.
It's hard, though, Ryan, not to invoke the great Bino Cook.
Oh, there we go.
Football guy, after all. You teased it. I have to say it now. All right, then forget it. I won't do it. No, I'm not going to be attacked.
Villains, look, they already put up the font.
He said,
we'll get to Bino later.
It was about the Iran hostages who got lifetime passes. He said, haven't they suffered enough?
There you go.
That's what immediately comes to mind when you think about giving
right
along.
On to villains. No, it's not Jeremy Schaff. Kate Fagan.
All right, my villain.
Haters.
Well, my villain actually ends up being my dad because I was talking to him yesterday. I'm like, what do you pay attention to in the sports world? And he was like, Baker Mayfield. That kid just has to get on the field and play. He needs to stop talking and play. And so I'm making my dad my villain, and anyone who's hating on Baker Mayfield and how he's approaching Combine and Pro Day and everything leading up to the NFL draft. I mean, he's drawing comparisons to Johnny Manziel. He's got a private investigator that an NFL team has paid to follow him around in advance of the draft to make sure that they understand his behavior patterns. But I mean, I understand this kid. He's building value in everything that he's doing right now, and I see that as the game plan.
Well, why?
I see you over there desperate.
Well, I'm just like, what's wrong with being a cranky old man and saying?
Are you calling Mr. Fagan an old man?
That's what I'm saying. I believe Kate would agree. I mean, everybody's got their right to be cranky and say exactly what you would expect them to say about Baker Mayfield.
You know what, Mr. Fagan? I think you're a gentleman and a scholar. I don't know about these guys.
A few of us left, from what I understand.
Clinton. Oh, man, yours.
Greek Super League game. There's a Pulitzer Prize winning photograph in this situation. A goal got called back as a result of an offside call in a Greek match, and the owner decides he's going to bring what I like to call the problem solver down onto the field with him. It is not a known fact. I'm laughing, but this isn't funny at all. This dude is packing a gun on his hip, and he threatens the referee. The Greek Super League people, they said, listen, we can't have this. Shut the whole league down.
We got a little too far.
Saying this is too much. His name is Ivan Savidis. I'm only laughing because it's so ridiculous, but come on, look at that photo. That deserves a Pulitzer.
This is the kind of passion
grabbing a gun
we don't
on a field.
No, this is the kind of passion we don't need.
This
in
is not
sports.
what we want from the world's game. It's embarrassing, but I'm glad that they made the smart decision to shut the whole thing down because you can't have this.
Absolutely not. Now, I got one. I need a new decision to be made. I'm taking on the NCAA. Okay, my little guy, Butler Blue. Okay, can we just put him up? This is the cutest little guy, right?
Yeah,
obviously the mascot. He is banned from the sidelines of the NCAA tournament. Now, if you say, well, maybe, I don't know, they don't want him in there. You know what? I can understand if it's about him pooping on the ground, but that's not even what it's about. If they make it to the Final Four, they can petition to get him on the sidelines. What sense does that rule make?
I like English Bulldogs, but they're not hygienic.
Doesn't matter. Come on.
There's all that
Have you been to a college basketball game recently?
Give me a break.
Have you seen the human
environment?
Have you seen the humans?
Anyway, he says there he is, so cute. He says he's got lots to do. Don't worry about him. But you know what? Free Butler Blue. Let him on the sidelines. I want that rule changed.
I want to hang out with English. I'm not worried about him.
This is ridiculous.
Jeremy, let's hear about your villain.
Let's take all of us now to the Kansas high school basketball tournament in a play that took place the other day. This isn't funny. This is what happened. We got that, right? Somewhere. Well, there it is. Okay. All right. It's scarier in full speed, though, I would say. So you see guys going up for a dunk. Opponent pushes him. He got a flagrant. See, it's scarier that way. He got a flagrant foul. He was not ejected from the game. We don't have to talk about names at this point. We're talking about high schoolers. Yeah. It became a viral sensation, that play, a lot of criticism. For what it's worth, the players involved said no hard feelings, not a big deal. The player who was shoved was not hurt. But that doesn't matter what they say. And I'm not saying the guy should, be hang drawn and quartered, but he's very lucky that the player going up for the dunk didn't fall backwards and hit his head, have a severe concussion, a severe injury.
Who would shove someone?
Yeah.
I mean, like that.
Maybe you could say it's in the midst of the game, but what about the refs in that?
Yeah.
What about the refs?
Credit to his teammates, too, who didn't come off the bench and start something. You know what I mean? They were relatively under control. I don't know that I would have done the same, especially not when I was a high school basketball player. It's time to go if you're doing that with some of my teammates.
Bad scene all around. Okay, so coming up, what could be baseball's best play of the season? And the season hasn't even started yet. That's what I love about this. First, a preview of a story that we're telling this weekend on E60 about Purdue big man Isaac Haas.
Comes to the Haas. Thomas on the turnaround. Boy, that's tough to stop.
The human body, as tough as it is, it's also really fragile.
Don't let me be you, Aaron.
What do you love about Isaac?
He is my best friend.
That's the scariest I've ever been in my whole life.
She is in constant danger, and I'm working hard for her. I love you. I'm going to be there for her, no matter what.
It's a normal day. You're rushing out the door to get to work on time when suddenly, there it is, the dreaded service light. So what is it this time? Tire pressure, low coolant, time for an oil change? When it comes to service lights, head to Jiffy Lube. We've got you covered. Drive in today and make the switch to Pennzoil. Ask for Pennzoil Synthetics, getting you back on the road in a jiffy. Jiffy Lube, leave worry behind.
Welcome back with our heroes. Okay, the NCAA Women's Tournament starting today. And Kate,
which is
name
why,
we should know.
Yes, Sabrina Ionescu. She is a guard for the Oregon women's basketball team. Got to send her some love. Triple-double machine. Transcendent player right now in women's basketball with the way she plays the game. Plus, Oregon, the 2 seed in the tournament, starts today. They're playing Seattle, 15 seed at 7:30 tonight. Plus, we got the right branding here on set, which we'll see when we stop watching Sabrina play.
I love it. You got to show the O, though. Yeah. There you go. All right, so Jeremy Schaap.
Radford blown out by Villanova, but that doesn't mean that Radford's coach, Mike Jones, didn't have the entire situation in the right perspective, and he also displayed a sense of humor, which, as we all know, is a little much. It's in short supply these days in sports. Here,
I'm just here so I don't get fined. I always wanted to do that, man. I always wanted to do that.
Radford was happy to be there. They got blown away, but it was a nice story.
Yeah, nice story. Great coach, great team. Clinton.
Want to show you guys the best pickoff play in the history of baseball. Williams Astudillo. He fooled a runner on something I've never seen before. A blind toss behind a batter who actually took a cut, which is what makes this so actually deceptive. If you check out the second replay, note the first baseman selling this with the casual walk back. Oh, guess what? Got him! First base coach is looking like, oh, bro. You totally got
mad.
Heck of a play out of that. You never see that. Love
it.
that.
Already. I feel like it's going to make it in the top 10, at least in terms of pickoffs. All right. So my hero, Joe Thomas. 11 seasons, all with the Browns. 10-time All-Pro. 3-time. I mean, this guy.
One of the greatest linemen ever.
3-time man of the year. One of the greatest linemen ever. And you know what? Brings back the era of a player staying with a team the whole way through. He had opportunities to leave, but he always stayed. And you know what? True class act. So sorry to see him go. He will be missed. And by the way, speaking of a class act, our own Bob Lee, his birthday is today. Our captain, our general, we should say happy birthday out there, Bob.
Happy birthday, Bob.
Yes. All right, so we will see you again next week right here on Outside the Lines. What? No more well wishes?
Oh, we still.
Good job, Bob.
That was enough.
You think
overdo it?
And what he said.
Jenny had a dream of joining the national bobsled team. She worked out relentlessly and knew that if she just refused to give up, one day her dream would come true and she'd stand triumphantly up on the podium. But when her kids reminded her that she was 52 and she lived in Texas, and maybe she started dreaming this dream a little late in life, she gave up on not giving up. But then she heard how Geico could save her money on car insurance, so she switched and achieved that dream instead.